Today's special feature webinar is on the fixed monitoring enhancements. This will highlight the fixed data API, how to set up a data feed, managing those data feeds in your organization and event space, viewing the fixed monitoring data, and then some fixed monitoring integrations that we currently have available for you all. So just to give a little agenda of what we're going to be getting into today, I do have it laid out, and some of this, if you're new to the fixed monitoring capability, it may seem completely foreign to others. I do go a bit into detail, so it's maybe some items that you're not familiar with yet, but hopefully we'll think that you can use these and take them back to your organization. So we're going to start off just on the background, what it actually is, how to get it started, and then actually utilizing them in your organization and event spaces, how to view that data, and then some integrations as I mentioned. So to kick things off, the fixed monitoring, to set it up, you need to start with fixed data API. The fixed data API allows you to integrate your sensors, devices at a fixed location to stream that minute by minute or even second by second data. And to start it all from the beginning, so what is exactly an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface, and what this does is it allows two applications to talk to one another. So we have developed a CBRNResponder API that allows radiological and chemical client applications to talk directly to our CBRNResponder website. So just a quick visual here on the left, that would be your client application, your device. Then we have that API that is bridging the gap. And then on the right, that's where you will see on the website all of the data and information that is coming in. So CBRNResponder, as I said, has a public API that allows manufacturers and other entities to integrate directly with us. This allows you to enable your devices or corresponding applications to submit that data directly to CBRNResponder, taking out that manual entry of data. So just to hark on a few benefits of that, you're eliminating the factor of human error. So I know some of you in the field, when you're entering data, if you have gloves on, for example, it could be hard to make sure you're entering the exact information correctly. But with this fixed monitoring, it'll enter it in minute by minute, second by second for you, and you won't have to worry about any error there. It also increases, as I said, the accuracy, but also the efficiency in data collection. So when you're collecting a lot of readings in a short period of time, you don't want to be manually doing that. If you're able to just have an API set up and have it coming in real time, again, just that efficiency level for your organization. And as I just said, able to collect large amounts of data in a short time. So thousands of records as opposed to you having to manually enter that. It is a massive time saver and something that is definitely beneficial to the event response. So specifically the fixed data API, this allows third-party applications to submit fixed point monitoring data to a data feed in CBRNResponder. So when to use this? This is when you have a fixed or stationary number of devices. So it doesn't have to be just one, it can be multiple, that are collecting data at a single location over time. So if you have equipment that is not stationary, you are moving around with it, swinging a meter or something on your backpack perhaps, you would be using a different API. I'm not going to get into that today, but this is specifically for that fixed stationary device. So an example of this is fixed monitors around nuclear power plants. I'll get into an example later, but New Jersey, they have fixed monitoring set up around their nuclear power plants. And so they have those multiple devices all connected to the one data feed in CBRNResponder. So what fixed data is available? We do have two different methods of the fixed data. So fixed point surveys, which is for radiological data, and then fixed point chemical readings, which is for those chemical readings. And so not everybody can just start collecting these, set up their devices and start streaming this data. There are a few things you need to do to set this up for yourself. The first being you need a data feed established in CBRNResponder. And the second is you need to have access to fixed data API in CBRNResponder, which I will go over how to get access to both of those in the next few slides. To view more information on both fixed data API or our other API methods, so equipment or we have user data API, you can visit this page on our website. It's under the About tab, and it is titled API. So switching back to what you need a data feed to start setting up fixed monitoring. Data feed, this is a stream of fixed monitoring data from multiple locations and or devices for an organization that are uploaded on a regular basis without user interaction. So again, you don't need anybody manually keeping track of this, entering anything. Once you have that data feed set up and the devices set up, it will continually be streaming. So that example I mentioned, New Jersey, they have a great fixed monitoring network set up around their nuclear power plants, and all of those fixed monitoring stations submit to the one data feed. So the process of it can be a little confusing to just read it here, but I am going to show you how those different stations all enter into one data feed. And these data feeds can be added to your events. That way your data is available side by side with the data that is collected by your responders. So you can see both of those data streams. You can also see it on top of any GIS files, user drawings. So again, just making sure you have that entire common operating picture. Data feeds can also be shared with partners. That way other organizations can see the data as well. So this can be established when you're setting up your partnerships. There is an option for data feeds to be shared. The one caveat with data feeds is that a user cannot create a data feed for your organization. You must reach out to the CBRNResponder support team for a data feed to be created. So this is our support email that I'm sure you're all familiar with. I'll have this a few other times throughout the presentation, but you do need to reach out to us for us to create a data feed. When requesting us to create that data feed, you can either provide some of this information initially to us, or we'll come back and ask you to provide the specific fields. So you want a unique name for the data feed that you and your API client manager is going to be able to recognize. Your organization, it's listed here as Chainbridge Technologies, but this will be your own organization that is responsible for the data feed. The hazard types, that depends on what your organization enables. So either chemical for those chemical readings or radiological for the field surveys. You can set your sharing mode, and by default, we check it off as active, which means it will be added to your events by default. So anytime an event is created, it will be added. And then available to emergency, this is where if there is the emergency response event that's activated, will you allow your data feed to be added to that event? So that's that network-wide emergency event. So some organizations choose not to, just because again, it is their data that they own, but that's up to you. And then once that data feed has been created on our end, we will provide you with the data feed key. It is going to be a long string of numbers and letters, so not something that is probably easily memorable. You will not be able to view this data feed anywhere in CBRNResponder, even though your organization owns it. So you want to be sure when we do provide that to you, it's in a secure place, but also somewhere that you have access to provide to others that may need it. And this key is the key for you and If you're not the API client manager, you will need to provide it to them, but this is what they will need to associate their fixed data API client application with the actual data feed. So that's the connection that's going to get that data streamed in for you to view. So in short, the data feed key is important. We can, if absolutely necessary, provide this to you again, but typically, just because we don't have it anywhere for you to view, you want to make sure you keep track of that. And I know I'm saying a lot of terms here that you may not be familiar with, such as the API client application. So in short, that's what is going to be talking to the CBRNResponder API. So that image I had on the first few slides, it is the device on the left. So that's your API client application. To set that up in CBRNResponder, you will again need to reach out to our support email. That way we can provide you with access to the fixed data API, and we'll enable that for your organization. And it does seem that there are some hoops that you have to jump through, but really once you just send us that email, we'll do this all for you in kind of one swoop. But you will need to have a user in your organization that has the API client manager role. So they are the ones that can go into our developer console and create that client application that I mentioned here. So you need at least one person to be able to go in and do that. So that was more of the back end. We're now going to take a look at, once the data feed has been created, you start having data stream into it, how you can actually view that and use it to your advantage. So I'm going to start at the organization level. And I will say we've made a lot of different enhancements in the past few website releases. So if you haven't checked it out in a while, I definitely recommend. When you open up your organization space and you have data feeds that are associated with your organization, you will see that fixed monitoring tab on the left-hand side menu, and it is a drop-down. So depending on the hazard types your organization has enabled, so either radiological, chemical, or both, you will see additional options. So here I'm seeing both surveys and chemical readings. If I was just a chemical organization, I would be only seeing chemical readings listed there. So this view may depend on what your organization has set up, but you will always see the data feeds option there. So I'm going to take a look into the data feeds, and this is where I'll see all of the data feeds that my organization has access to. So here there are 5 listed for Chainbridge Technologies. I can see the name, description, the hazard types it supports. So that's going to either be chemical, radiological, or both. And then the sharing mode that you have set for your data feed. To view an individual data feed, I am going to use the magnifying glass icon. And from here, I will see a few different sections. I'll see the general information. Again, that's what we ask when we are setting up the data feed for you. Devices, locations. You'll either see fixed point surveys and or fixed chemical readings. Again, depends on the hazard types. And then an associated events section. And so before I dive into the difference between the locations and devices, this image here shows how it all interacts. So you start with the data feed in the center. That is what is created in CBRNResponder. With that data feed, you can have as many different locations for your data feed. So here I just have location A11, B12, etc. So those are all the different locations that I want to stream the data from. And then at each of those locations, you will have your devices there. So you can have just a single device, and again, as many as you would like. For the chemical side, you may have different meters and sensors there. So one for carbon dioxide, oxygen, ammonia, and similar, you can do the same on the rad side. So the devices are at a location, and the location makes up the data feed. So here, to go sort of backwards now. So I open up the devices section. These are all the individual devices that are associated with locations, and will send that data into my data feed. So they do have the make, model, serial number, and device key. This is all sent from your device itself. If I want to view a specific device's location, if I use that magnifying glass, I'll see the information about that specific device, the location information. I will be able to see all the specific readings that went to just this device. So any reading that this single device collected, it will be shown here. Now moving back to the location of the data feed. So here I have 6 locations listed with their current coordinates. The current coordinates of the location, those are sent by through the API as well. So when a reading comes in, it's going to have the location listed with it, and that establishes the sole location. So on the location details page in the left image, I am going to see a drop down for devices. If I open that, I will see all of the current devices at this location. So you can also open up the device history and see devices that were at that location previously. So we do allow that historical tracking. And depending on your data feed, again, radiological or chemical, you will see the fixed point surveys or fixed chemical readings. You can use the filters there to customize your date and time filter. On the left, I am going to filter by location name and device. I can see all of those readings in the table below based on my filters. On the right image for fixed chemical readings, this is where I can select maybe that specific sensor that's collecting oxygen, or if I want to look at just ammonia, you can customize that for your viewing. And the final section for the data feed page is associated events. So this is where you will see the list of all events that this data feed has been added to and a direct link to them. So one thing I will note, if you add a data feed, it will not be added to your historical events. So you can manually add those, and I'll show you how to do that in the next few slides, but it will be added to new events moving forward after the data feed's been created. And now I'm going to switch to the event level, which as far as viewing the data feeds is pretty similar. So I'm going to see that fixed monitoring drop-down menu again. And a lot of this, as I keep mentioning, is depending on the hazard type. So if I create a radiological event, I'm only going to see that surveys option there. Or if I create a radiological and chemical event, and my data feed is set up for both, I will see both surveys and chemical readings listed there. But if I want to view my event data feeds, I can see all of the ones that have been added here. So taking it back to the creation, if you had your data feed set to active, this means it was added automatically to your events. You will not need to manually add it to any newly created events. But if you are viewing a historical event, maybe one that you just use for routine monitoring. I know we do have a default routine monitoring event for each organization. That data feed will not be on that event. But if I want to add it, I will see the manage button. And from there, I can remove and add additional data feeds that you have access to. So you do need the event manager role on the event to do this. So on the data feed details page, it's going to look pretty much identical to the one at the organization level. You will see the general information, the devices, locations, the fixed point surveys or chemical readings, and then the associated events. So in the event space, I can open up the surveys or chemical readings, again, depending on your event, and I will see a tabular view of all of the readings. So we do have a default collected date and time to be showing the last 30 days, but you can customize that filter to set it to any time frame that you would like. We do have some set ones such as 7 days, last month, last 3 months, but you can also do custom here. So again, we do allow down to the second for the fixed monitoring data, so you can even narrow it down to that. You can also filter by the location, name, and devices. So if I only want to view the location for my specific data feed, I can customize my viewing, and then I will only see readings that came in through that location. Similar to how our user collected field survey data comes in, if you have thresholds set up, they will calculate the severity. So that's also a great feature there. If you take a look at the list, you can see any readings that may be above background. So I'm now going to go into viewing data from the event map. So first, you want to ensure that you do have that layer turned on. So make sure fixed monitoring data is toggled on. You will then see the fixed monitoring options section, and you want to open that up. And it does let you know at the top, gives a little description that this is all data feeds that you have. So you'll see all of them listed. If I want to view those specific locations and devices of a data feed, I'm going to use the expand list button. And then now I'm viewing the locations for the data feed that I chose to view. So you can see the specific information there, such as a link to the tabular view again, the data collected in the last 24 hours, so the number of surveys and or chemical readings. You can also use that location icon, and that'll navigate the map where that location actually is. So here, demo sensor 1, that's the location here. I can see in the quick details the data in the last 24 hours, the specific coordinates, and then the devices that make up that location. So at this location, there are 4 devices or sensors displayed. The graph icon allows you to open up the data feed specific location and see all of the readings that have come in over a specific date range. So the graph is specific to fixed data. So some of you may have never interacted with the graph before, but that's because it's just for that fixed data. Since it's streaming minute by minute, second by second, it would be way too much to have thousands of dots all over the map, those icons. So having this graph format allows you to really see any spikes, any declines in your readings that come in. I have about a month time frame of the data. I can drag specific areas of the map to view specific sections or times. So right now I narrowed it down to about 9 hours. So again, here I'm just seeing the date filters, but I can also, depending on how I have my location set up, customize it to show other devices that the readings have come in from. And you can see to the top left of the graph, I can see the specific time and the value that I'm viewing. And now to take a look at a few real world examples here. So New Jersey, I keep mentioning them. They have a really great fixed point survey system set up. They do this around their nuclear power plants. And so to date, they have over 2.5 million surveys that have been recorded across various data feeds. Just on this one here, there was over 1 million. So the graph is a great way to view this because you can really hone in on a specific time frame as opposed to viewing, again, all 2.5 million of those on the map. And so they do have some that are close together. We do cluster those, and then you can open that cluster icon out similar to how you do other data points on the map. And then in the quick detail section, you'll be able to view those separately. We do have 2 different fixed monitoring capabilities that are available for all users. The first being RadNet. RadNet is an EPA system that monitors the nation's air, precipitation, and drinking water to track radiation in the environment. The RadNet data is being directly uploaded to RadResponder to provide an additional situational awareness tool for our users. So this was an integration that we had There are a few different places you can view this data. The first being under the Our Network tab that you'll see at the top. If I want to view it on the map, I will open up the network map. Everybody does have access to this, and you can customize the layers. So I'm going to toggle on EPA RadNet layer, and there I will see all of the different EPA RadNet locations across the country. If I click on a specific one, the quick details will open up, and I will see the specific location, the city, state, the reading time range, and reading count up to the current date. So you can also click the view charts. I'm going to open up a chart in just a bit. That's that graph. If you want to view it from a tabular view, you will open up the EPA RadNet page instead of the network map. And there you'll see all of the RadNet locations. It'll give you the number of readings, the latest reading timestamp, and earliest reading timestamp. If you want to view a specific RadNet location, you can use a magnifying glass. And there you will see the general information, the location, and then a reading chart. So this is similar to the graph that we saw on the map. You can also view these from your event space as well. So if you have a radiological event, you need to make sure you have radiological enabled as a hazard type. If you have chemical, these will not show up. But if you expand the fixed monitoring tab again, you'll see EPA RadNet. And this will bring you to the same list that we just looked at from the Our Network tab. So when you're in your event, if you want to view these locations alongside your event data, open up the Layers tab and make sure EPA RadNet Locations is toggled on. You'll then see them populate on the map. You can select specific ones. So here I'm viewing the Washington, D.C. one. And again, I will see some of that information. I can view the chart from the map as well. So we do have different filters that you can use as opposed to the ones we did for your own fixed monitoring data. You can choose which readings to display. So dose equivalent rate, gamma gross count rate, and gamma gross count rate by channel range. You can customize the date range. So if you want to view just data for today, or maybe for the last year, you can adjust those. And then depending on your preferences, you can choose to display it in your local time or in universal time. When you're viewing the graph, you will see in the bottom right, it says click here for details on interacting with the graph. So this will go over that zoom that I showed from the fixed monitoring data feeds in the previous section. So to zoom, I was clicking and dragging. If I want to zoom back out, just double click, or to pan, I can shift and drag. So if you ever need a reminder there, you can always click that and open it up. The other fixed data integration that we do have is with IMS, which is the International Monitoring System. This is a worldwide network of monitoring stations that measure the atmosphere for radioactive particles. So we have integrated the US stations directly. And again, it's very similar to the EPA RadNet integration, just not as many locations. So we're pretty much going to follow the same process as we did for EPA RadNet. If you want to view them from the network map, you'll open up Our Network. And once you're on the network map, you want to make sure the IMS layer is turned on. And here you can see the US-based locations that we do have. If I want to view a specific one, I will click on that icon, and in the quick details, I will see the location and the reading count and time range. If I want to view it from that tabular section, I will click the IMS from the Our Network tab. And then this is where all of the IMS locations are. So we do have only 11, but again, these are the US-based ones and not the ones from other parts of the world, but we do still provide these for you. You can open up the individual IMS locations, view the reading table, and you can actually download those data files yourself. So that download icon there with the associated data file, that's available for you all to download for your external use. And similar to EPA RadNet, you can also view IMS locations in the event space. So then radiological event, and then under fixed monitoring, you'll see IMS. And this will be the same page that we just viewed from the R network menu. To view this from the map, you'll turn on the IMS layer. You can click on the specific location and you will see this in the quick details as well. And we do always have the additional details that will take you back out to that specific tabular view. And please note that we do not have a graph for the IMS locations. They don't have as many readings typically coming in as the EPA RadNet. So we still have that tabular view, but not necessarily the graph view for you.